No matter where I go, and really everywhere that I go and I fish, no matter whether I'm fishing for fun or I'm fishing a kayak tournament, where I'm traveling in the country, something that I look for, especially during the summertime, that helps me to catch fish, that should help you guys to catch some fish as well, and can really lead to some fun fishing and some consistent fishing all summer long, and that is moving water. Now, it doesn't really matter where you're at in the country. For the most part, almost every single lake or reservoir or pond or whatever it is created by water flowing in somewhere on that body of water. And that is what I look for. When I go to a new lake, I go to a new place and I'm looking for places to go and fish, I go and just start scrolling and I look, where are the creeks, the rivers, the groundwater, springs, where are those things running in at? Because if I can find where those things are running in at, it creates some key things that bass will use, especially in the hottest months of the year, that help me to go there and consistently catch fish. Again, no matter where I'm at or if I'm on a brand new body of water or not. And so moving water is key to bass fishing all across the country. It doesn't matter if you're on the TVA system down here where I'm at in Tennessee, if you're up north in Michigan, if you're down south in Florida, out west on the coast. I mean, it doesn't matter. Moving water will consistently hold fish. And it's kind of funny because I was just in Michigan last week. In every lake that I fished, I would immediately get on Google Earth and just start scrolling, find where the rivers flowed in, find where the creeks flowed in. And that's where I ended up catching most of my fish, was either at the mouth of or in the creeks and rivers of the things that were actually flowing in and creating those lakes. Now, the number one reason that I do that is because moving water creates oxygen. In the summer, as water temperatures start to rise, the number one thing that happens is the dissolved oxygen starts to go down. And so that's the reason that you'll see a lot of bass move out deep, is because deeper water is cooler. It's going to hold more oxygen. That dissolved oxygen is going to be out in deep water, and that's where those fish want to go. Or you'll see a population of fish move up shallow and start to move into the creeks and the rivers because, again, they're looking for that dissolved oxygen. That river water, that groundwater, that spring water, that creek water, whatever it is flowing in there is going to be moving, it's going to be cooler, and it's going to have a lot more oxygen, and that is going to attract those bass. I have seen bass move great distances to go in and get up into cool moving water, and they kind of migrate up into those areas this time of year just because that is what they're looking for. They're looking to be cool, they're looking to be able to breathe well, and that's what they want. And instinctually, they will seek that out, and they will swim great distances to go and find that. And so that's the number one reason that I look for moving water this time of year, is because it's going to be cooler, it's going to be more oxygenated, and it's going to attract those bass. Another reason that I look for cool moving water is not only does it attract the bass, but it attracts everything that they eat. That is one of the most important things that I think people overlook, is kind of studying what bass eat and where they go. I've always said fish for things that bass eat because it helps you to understand the bass even better. If you know where the bluegill are going, the bait fish are going, the trout are going, the alewife are going, whatever it is that your bass are consistently eating on, if you know where they're at and you know where they're going to, that's where ultimately you're probably going to find the bass at, because the bass are doing the same things. They're just following those food sources around, and then they're eating them when the time comes. And so that moving water, like I said, not only will it attract the bass, but it will attract the things that they like to eat as well. And not only that, it'll help to extend some of the kind of life cycles that some of those things go through as well. It's really cool, especially here in East Tennessee, and I've done this again all throughout the country, but here there are a few key examples where you can follow a mayfly hatch not only in May, but all the way up through the end of June, and even in July, just following them up creeks and rivers, because ultimately the creeks and the rivers, they're going to warm up. They're not going to get as warm as lakes will. Consistently around here, I think the warmest I've ever seen some of these rivers in this creek is like in the mid 70s, but for the most part they're going to be in the low 70s to mid 60s, just because they're flowing out of the mountains, they're flowing out of groundwater, they're flowing out of springs. They just stay consistently cool because of that. They themselves have a consistent cool stream of water coming into them. But what's really cool is I've been able to follow mayfly hatches and shad spawns and different things that happen at different temperature ranges in the water just by going further and further up the creeks and rivers around me. And so that's one thing to kind of keep in mind as well, is not only does it attract those bait fish and those things into those areas, but then it helps those things to kind of keep doing the life cycles, or those kind of instinctual things like spawning and hatches and all those different things that bass use to their advantage to be able to feed. And so it's really cool being able to do that and to follow those hatches and those spawns the further you go up rivers all throughout the summer. And that's one thing that I consistently do, is I find where the hatch starts, and then I just start consistently moving my way up, or systematically moving my way up the rivers, the creeks, and the streams, and keep following those hatches and those spawns all the way up there. And by the time that they're normally done, it's fall, and we start shifting gears and do a different type of bass fishing. The third thing it's going to do is position those bass. Moving water positions bass in areas where they have to be. You know, if water's flowing out of a creek or a river or out of a dam or whatever it is, even funneling through an area like a bridge or something like that, those bass, if they're going to live there, they have to find those eddies, they have to find those backflows, they have to find those areas that allows them to live there and not just be in the current and swimming against the current the entire time. And not only does it position them, but then it also positions what they like to eat. Again, just focusing in on where the bass live is usually where the food's at. And so when that you know, river water or creek water is flowing downstream, those bass are going to get in those backwaters, they're going to get in those eddies, and they're going to use them as ambush points. Because not only do they have to be there, but they want to be there as well. Because a bass is a lazy creature. You know, they want food brought to their face. And so when they get in that moving water, not only do they have to position, they can position in those areas, and then that food is consistently flowing down to them. Because that's the one thing about the bait fish, the bluegills, the crawdads, whatever it may be, they're not as strong as the bass. You know, they're not as strong as that predatory fish. Whereas a bass can swim back up against current and like tuck in behind a rock. A lot of the times with bluegills and bait fish and like that, just not being as big and as hardy as those bass are, they'll just get grabbed by that current and they'll just flow with the current, and then that first natural stopping point, whether it's a backflow or an eddy or whatever it is, they get flushed out into those areas, and then those bass use the fact that they got flushed out into those areas and their inability to swim back against the current to ambush them, to eat them, and it can create for some of the most consistent bites that you'll find all year. Because that's one thing about rivers and creeks that I love, is that they consistently are consistent. And what I mean by that is if you catch a bass off of an area, there's probably going to be another bass there the next time that you come back, or there's going to be multiple bass in that area, so make multiple casts. And a lot of that has to do with, you know, these free-flowing creeks, these free-flowing rivers, or even things that are created by dam generation. Those bass are going to have to get in those same areas, because those same areas, whether it be behind a rock, a brush pile, even like a backflow or something under the water that we can't see, those bass are consistently living in those areas because that's where they have to be, and it's where they want to be able to function in that river current and to be able to eat. And so if you are looking for areas to fish this time of year, if you don't want to go out deep, if you want to go out shallow, if you want to look for something consistent that you can go have fun with all throughout the hottest parts of the year, go look for moving water, flowing current, whether it be a creek, a river, a groundwater stream, even, you know, water getting funneled down in under a bridge or a culvert or something like that. That is consistently where those bass are going to want to live and going to want to chill this time of year and want to eat. And if you guys want to see me fishing some river current in the dead heat of the summer, click this video that's coming up right here.